G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. I do hope you're having a good day, and with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the Barbie, and let's just get right into it. Our first post is by user MissLost1023 titled, "Am I the a-hole for making my 7-year-old go to Alcoholics Anonymous? I, 31 female, have an amazing son, almost 8, who is incredibly sweet, well-mannered, and inquisitive. Although I guess most parents think of their kids that way. I quit drinking about 2 months ago and have been adamant about doing the Alcoholics Anonymous program correctly. 90 meetings in 90 days, sponsor, daily readings, therapy, etc. I really want to be a good mum and make up for my bad decisions when I was drinking. I never harmed him or put him in danger, but I just wasn't present and am remorseful about my drinking past. The problem is that I'm a single mum who works full-time and I live in a small town. Because it's small, there aren't a lot of options in terms of Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. So the only one that I can really attend is the one at 5:30 based on my and my son's schedule. His father has him part-time, so on those days, I can attend meetings by myself, but on my days, I have to bring my son. I don't have anyone to leave him with, and babysitting wouldn't work because nobody wants to babysit for just 1 hour. It doesn't financially make sense for them. So I take my son to meetings. Naturally, he isn't too thrilled when I have to. And before you suggest I could do Zoom meetings, I really don't get anything out of them. I like the in-person connection and atmosphere. My ex, who has never taken my alcoholism seriously and has never actually attended an AA meeting, says that I'm the asshole for exposing our child to that kind of atmosphere and those kinds of people. The truth is, those people are what have saved my life. They are so sweet and good with my son, and while sometimes the subject matter can be a little adultish, we mostly talk about how to be better people and live a spiritually sound existence and to help our fellow man. I personally think that it's good for my son to be surrounded by people that are trying to better themselves and also let him know at an early age the effects of alcoholism as it runs in my family. But maybe I'm the asshole and way off the mark and am doing more damage than good. I would just like outside opinions that aren't emotionally connected to the situation. Am I the asshole for taking a 7-year-old boy to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings with some of the topics that are addressed? I understand why you're upset at your ex-partner for the stigma that he's throwing around, that kind of atmosphere, those kinds of people. When I think of places that are appropriate to take a young child, Alcoholics Anonymous meetings are not really on that list, unfortunately. To me, it's just somewhere that is socially unacceptable for a child to be and to be exposed to. Yes, I understand that the topics that are addressed are positive, but I personally don't think you're doing right by your son or right by your partner for subjecting your son to this. I don't think you're an asshole for what you're doing, I just don't agree with your choices. In the comments, I'm not comfortable calling you an asshole over this because you're between a rock and a hard place, but yes, it's inappropriate subject matter for a child. It might make other members feel they can't speak their real experiences, meaning they cannot get anything out of the meetings. The topics often cover abuse, death, etc., and that's not appropriate for a child. It will not be fair to other members or your child. Edit to add, I was taken to these meetings as a child by family members. I got to hear, firsthand, as people that assault others and pedophiles described their crimes in detail. One woman started drinking because her husband beat her, and she described that in detail too. In the meetings that I was in, people often tell stories of the worst times in their lives. Maybe I went to unusually dark meetings, maybe things have changed a lot since then. I don't know. I can only go by my experience, and my experience is that these topics are unacceptable for a child and unfair to the other members. Opie, you have to find a babysitter or do Zoom classes. Do not take your child. It's not fair to anyone to bring him. Impossible Hand replies, my thoughts exactly. I can't call OP an asshole, but I've been to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting before. In there, I heard people telling stories on having sex, being abusive or being abused by partners, and leading to conversations regarding other drugs. Definitely not appropriate for a 7-year-old. And not fair on the other members, because they can't be honest about their own experiences because of a child in the room. It's not fair to anyone. OP, you need to either find a babysitter for that hour or just deal with Zoom on those days. Putting your child through this is unacceptable. The Pash says, I think you're the asshole, chiefly for 2 reasons. Your ex is half right. An AA meeting is not the kind of atmosphere that a 7-year-old should be regularly subjected to. He's 7, not 10. Though to be clear, your ex is an asshole for being judgmental about those people. You were doing a good job trying to teach the dangers of alcoholism to your child at an early age. But I think 7 is just a tad too young for such serious and somber topics. There will be a time for this, but I don't think that it's now. You may not realize it, but perhaps the presence of a young child may be affecting the others to perhaps not speak as freely as they could have. There are just topics that you do not talk about in the presence of a child. And I know that they all probably say they're fine, but in that situation, it's fairly possible no one wants to be that person who bitches about it. Even if it's just a hypothetical, I think it only adds to the notion that you really should be finding something else to do for your child during those hours. Does your child not have any friends that he could stay with? Also, you're the asshole is merely for the purposes of judging who's in the wrong, so to speak. You're explicitly not an asshole for this, and I offer you my most sincere congratulations for beating this demon and staying strong. Back up to the post, we have an edit. I super appreciate everyone's responses. It gave me a lot of insight. Admittedly, I didn't really think about how other members may feel about having a child there. I was mostly thinking about the comfort of my son. I will say that the group is all old-timers that have years of sobriety and largely just talk about service work and how much better their lives are. But, as many of you have pointed out, the presence of a child may deter members from talking about serious subjects, so I'll either just give my kid headphones and a tablet to play with, something that I usually hate doing, but I guess I'll just have to suck it up, or just do Zoom meetings when I have him. Again, thank you for all of the input, even the people that were incredibly harsh with their verdict. And now, onto the update. First and most importantly, I'm still sober and I feel better than I have in years. I can now be more present and a better mum to my child, and for that, I'm incredibly grateful. Alcoholics Anonymous has quite literally saved my life, and if anyone who is reading this struggles with addiction, I just want to say that there is a way out. You just have to know that you are worth it, and sobriety is worth it. My first post ended up being a mixed bag in terms of judgments about my assholery. I accept my judgment of being the asshole, but I did want to clarify a common misconception. Abstaining from alcohol is just a small portion of Alcoholics Anonymous. A much larger portion is dedicated to looking into why we drink, taking accountability for our selfish actions, and apologizing accordingly, and to rectify our character defects so that we can be better people to our friends and family. Because of these aspects, I was hoping exposing my son to the program would teach him something about accountability, patience, and empathy. I ended up just asking my Alcoholics Anonymous home group if it bothered them that I brought my son to the meetings. Not only did everyone look at me like I grew a second head for even asking for permission, every parent in the group talked about their own children growing up in AA and how you do what you have to do to stay sober. Essentially, the consensus was that it's far better for a kid to have to be dragged to meetings a few hours a week than to have a mum drunk all the time. I still take my son to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, but now I allow him to play on my tablet with headphones. I got reamed in the comments for not allowing my kid to do this before. Fair enough. I just have this thing about kids being on technology as a quick fix for boredom, but I need to get over that. My son gets a lot of treats and gifts from my home group members. One dude gives him $10 and $20 notes every time he sees my son. I know, right? Untapped resource. My son is learning how to play electric guitar, and 2 AA members will riff with my son and talk music. Jimi Hendrix is currently my son's hero. All in all, my son likes the attention and says he doesn't mind going to meetings. A surprising update in all of this is that my son's dad has stopped drinking, although he currently refuses to attend Alcoholics Anonymous. My relationship with my ex is much better, and my kiddo seems much happier as a whole. Life for all of us is just better, and while I don't want this to turn into a public endorsement for Alcoholics Anonymous, I just want to say that sobriety is hands down the best thing that has ever happened to my family. In the comments, You Say What Now says, I'm glad that AA helps people, but it strikes me, as a non-alcoholic, as very intertwined with religious and cult-like behavior in some of the program of steps. I find it weird how it's recommended and covered by many health insurance policies, almost to the exclusion of any other addiction recovery programs, even those that are proven to be more successful. I'm still not sure that it's appropriate to expose such a young child to some of the content of the discussions that can arise. Aren't there other options to educate a kid on healthy behavior and good qualities? But hey, I guess at least you let him use his tablet now. Third Try as the Charm replies, Yeah, I also have concerns about this. I think the headphones and tablet help some, but I still have concerns. The Barry Potter replies, I've been in AA, and there is no way that I'd bring a child there. Not everyone in AA is there of their own accord, and some are active criminals there on court order. 2 were known sex offenders. I'd find a babysitter before I subject a child to the cornucopia of people that AA has to offer. Plus, they're too young to be indoctrinated into such a shame-based system. Danky McJangles replies, Totally agree. I did court-ordered AA in my mid-20s, but ended up getting very serious with it and stuck with it long after. I went to meetings at many locations, and every single one had at least one sex offender. I still have friends that I made there almost 2 decades later, so I want to stress that there are most definitely good people there. That being said, there are plenty of degenerates to be found there, as well as people who are simply replacing alcohol and substance addiction with a cult-like AA addiction, or are otherwise just unhinged. An Alcoholics Anonymous hole is absolutely no place for a child. There are plenty of options out there, but your selfishness for alcohol has been replaced with selfishness for Bill W. Shame on OP for compromising the safety of their child. You're the asshole. TravelCat67 says, AA is not a cult. You don't worship a leader. They've even eased up on the higher power stuff in a lot of the meetings because many folks are atheists. My mother went to AA and it saved her life. She did it consistently for a year and then stopped, but she never drank again for the rest of her life. Some people go for life because it's basically free group therapy. Some people go for a while, some on occasion for maintenance, some just a few times, but still manage to stay sober. It's a safe space and has been proven to help folks get clean. It's why it's recommended by doctors and inpatient programs are covered by insurance. Religious doesn't necessarily make a cult, and as I've said, in certain regions they are taking the word God out of the steps and the Serenity Prayer. You Say What Now replies, Like I said, I'm glad that it's helped people. I retain my opinions on its religious cult-like aspects. You are welcome to disagree though. I Am the Shark replies, Yeah, I'm an alcoholic and I've been to AA and it was way too culty for me, and there is definitely a hierarchy and levels of worship, at least in the group that I was in. It was almost like an MLM vibe. Lol at the MLM vibe? And don't ask how many times I was approached in AA to go to a hotel to get pitched by, It's not Amway. It was always Amway. OP says, AA lets you believe what you want, leave when you want, and survives off of $1 donations, and you don't even have to donate. Tell me one cult or religion for that matter that follows suit. Third Tries the Charm says, Every cult or religion will tell you outwardly that it does things like that all donations are voluntary, that people can leave whenever they choose. What matters far more is the lived experience of the members. Bananas24 says, A stranger is giving your child money every time he sees him? I hate to be the harbinger of doom, but that causes my skin to crawl a little bit. I would honestly check the sex offender registry to make sure that man is not on the list. And even if that person isn't, I would probably put a stop to the gifts and not allow any alone time with any of the folks there. It sounds so awful, but awful people exist and will prey on people like OP because they know they are vulnerable. I hope it isn't true and they are all lovely people. Really, I do. But you can't let your guard down and always be vigilant with your own kid. Gift giving is how many predators earn parents' and kids' trust. I used to be a mandatory reporter, and that's one of the things that they told us to look out for. Honestly, after all these comments, I don't know how to feel about this one. I feel uneasy. I kind of feel disgusting after reading all of these. I can see it being a kind of happy ending if you just take OP at their word, but there's obviously something else going on. OP has been definitely indoctrinated by these people. They are losing the war against the cult accusations, at least in my opinion. I'd love to know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Do you think that Alcoholics Anonymous is a cult, or are those simply accusations? And what do you think of this whole story so far? Our next post is by user ThrowRA Gifts and Stuff, titled, "My 39 male, wife 39 female gets me the best gifts and she's just so hard to shop for. My wife is an amazing gift giver, so very thoughtful and creative. I thought that I outdid her this year by purchasing many small gifts that catered to her likes for Christmas, but again, she blew me out of the water. She has proceeded to outdo me yet again for my 40th birthday by booking me several different reservations at Galaxy's Edge at Disney to different buildable workshops. She has knocked it out of the park yet again. I absolutely adore how she's so great and thoughtful when it comes to the gifts she gives, but for her 40th later this year, I have no idea how to even come close. She has always wanted to do the Food and Wine Festival at Epcot, and I'm planning on doing that. She's also mentioned that you can hire nannies to watch your kids at the parks so that you can do your own thing, so I'm planning on incorporating that as well. The problem is, I don't know what else to do. She's not materialistic at all, and never wants anything except a new bag or backpack every so often. But even then, she never wants an expensive one. I just feel like I'm not spending enough by comparison, and it's making me feel bad about the gifts that I give her." In the comments, GladMud2108 says, "My brother's ex-girlfriend was like your wife, and he too felt like you. One year, he gave her a jar with little notes in it, and he had her pick from that jar. The notes were what they were going to do that weekend. Had her pick midweek just in case they needed a sitter. They went rock climbing, white water rafting, a theme park close to us, dinner and movie night, midnight picnic. He had all of the family and her family and friends fill the jar. It was quite fun for them, and they had a blast. And he always took a picture from the outings, and he gave her a photo album when the last piece of paper came out of the jar. It may not help you this birthday, but just a suggestion for the future." Blazing Donut 2769 says, "I think you're a little in your head here. Has she ever said anything negative about what you get her? Or is this all coming from you based on what you think about her gifts for you? Your gift ideas sound great. Remember, it's not about how much money you spend, it's about showing that you know and care about the other person, which it sounds like you have done." And OP replies, "You are probably right, but it's definitely something that I always consider when getting her gifts. Well, if you're doing a food and wine experience, maybe see if there are any VIP dinners or wine packages that you can add on. Otherwise, set aside money as a wine budget if you want some bottles to take home." Coca-Cola XOXO says, "I get it. My husband is an awesome gift giver too. He's a natural at it, and I don't understand how he always pulls off something amazing. So I'm going to share what he did for me for my 40th, in case you find it helpful since you mentioned Epcot. My husband paid for us to take a helicopter tour over Epcot to see the fireworks and watch the water show from the sky. It was an absolutely unforgettable experience. Extra special because he kept it a secret and made the pilot and flight staff also swear to secrecy. So I had no idea what was happening until the music started in my headphones when we were hovering way above Disney. Not quite the same experience, but earlier that same day, he also booked us an excursion to go on an Everglades swamp boat tour. I'm a nature lover, so it was an awesome gift for me. Hope that helps." And now, onto the update. So during dinner tonight, I straight up told her that I'd like to go to the Food and Wine Festival at Epcot this year for her birthday and get a nanny to go to the park with the kids. And then I asked her if there was anything else that she'd like for her birthday. She said she would love to stay at one of the resorts with the new skyline that connects it to the parks. I said done, and told her let's start putting aside money for it now, because we have until October, and we are single income. So she is super excited for it, and honestly, so am I, because I haven't been to a park alone, quote unquote, in almost 14 years. Thanks to everyone that offered advice. Anyway, that's where I think I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.